Hello viewers, you're once more welcome to your favorite show Shanty's Haven. This is a platform where we talk about the family, the issues that happen in our family, everything about the family. Our aim is to work on each family so that we can have a better society, because our society is a reflection of the kind of families we come from. I hope you've been enjoying the episode so far. Thank you to you who have been watching. Thank you to you who have subscribed. And thank you to the person who you watch, you like, and then you also share, because our greatest desire is to get each family to learn something from these episodes we are putting out there. We don't know it all, but we learn from one another. I hope you're enjoying it. I pray God will grant us the grace to raise our children right in this generation. Last time we talked about when to discipline our children, and a few viewers reached out to us and they expressed their concern concerning this topic of discipline. They said it's kind of controversial. Some of them are for discipline and others are not for discipline, while others don't know when to discipline their children and what kind of discipline is appropriate for what child. I believe discipline is very important. But before we go on, let us find out, what is discipline? Disciplining your child means teaching them responsible behavior and self-control. With appropriate and consistent discipline, you will train your child the outcome of the consequences for their actions, and also it will help them to take responsibility for their actions. So with all of this, which parent doesn't want their child to be responsible tomorrow? If you want your child to be responsible tomorrow, then you must be intentional about raising that child. And this is where discipline comes in. Discipline is very important in the life of every child. It will help them to internalize the rules. It will help them to organize themselves better. It will help them to develop appropriate behavior pattern. As a parent, your home should have rules and regulations that you go by. And try as much as possible to hold onto those rules with your children, so that when some other child comes into that home, it will be easy for them to fit in. Let the child not come and instead change what you have already set as rules in your home. Maybe in your home you set rules that in the morning when you get up, everybody, you make up your bed and make sure your room is in order. And this other child comes in and doesn't do it. Call this child and tell them how it is done in the home and let them follow suit. If you don't do that with your children, don't expect to see those kind of results. Please, let's discipline them. Let us teach them how to do it. And when they don't do it right, we discipline them accordingly, according to the crime as well. Try as much as possible as a parent not to take out your frustrations upon your child in the form of discipline. Maybe you had a bad day and you got home and everything didn't go right, and even the rules you've set in the house, the children are not doing it right. Instead of starting immediately to set the discipline, you may want to withdraw a little bit, catch your breath and try to be yourself, because if you don't do that, you will say some things you were not supposed to say. I see a child like a seed that God has placed in the hands of a parent. And for this seed to grow, you must get the right soil to put the seed in. And you must also nurture that seed. You must know when to plant that seed. You must know what kind of things you must do to help this seed grow properly. There will be times of pruning. There will be times of weeding. There will be times to water the seed. And there will be times to do other things to the seed that may not look like the seed is like as if it's growing. There will be times even you will cut off some seeds that look like it and throw away, just so that other one will grow well. For me, that is where discipline comes in as a parent. So I am a strong believer of discipline when it comes to my children. Now the question is, when should I discipline my child? Some schools of thought believe that you can discipline your child from when they start crawling. For me, generally, discipline your child when you think that child can reason and understand you. And when can this child reason and understand me? Take it as early as when the child is breastfeeding. You know, there are times our children are breastfeeding and you'll see a child would hold the nipple of the mother and bite. The child doesn't have teeth yet, the child will bite. And the child seems to be listening to something, like I bite and I listen. Then the child will bite and look at you into the eyes. And sometimes the child will look at you into the eyes and will even smile. I feel at that time you should set some rules straight. Talk to that child. Don't think that this child understand or not understand. That child understands you. You may be shocked. You can talk to this child that, look, what you're doing is inflicting pain on mommy. And if you continue to bite this, when you develop teeth and you bite, you will cut off your food, your source of food, and you will have no food to eat again. Each time that child does it and realizes that you don't welcome me, you don't smile with the child will know what I'm doing is not correct, it's not a good thing, and the child will refrain or reduce the number of times they're trying to bite your nipple. So discipline that child as soon as you know that child understands. Discipline must be age appropriate and it must sound fair. You don't want to take a kind of discipline that will work for a 5-year-old and set it for a university student. For example, in the home you have this university student and you put curfew in your home, and maybe you want to put your curfew, say curfew 3 p.m. everybody should be in the house. Maybe when they were in primary school that worked, that after school they come home, they take off time, they rest, 3 p.m. everybody is home and everything is in order, they follow the rules. Now they are in the university, for crying out loud, they cannot follow that thing for 3 p.m. Maybe yours can, but I know of people who will not do that. And now if the child comes at 4 p.m., 6 p.m., and then you're angry, you're shouting at the child, or you want to beat the child up, or you want to withdraw some benefits from the child because the child is disobedient to you, is it fair, parent? It's not. That's a university child. You give them more time, and it will be reasonable enough for them. So let us think about the age of these children. For a child who is crawling, it's true this child understands things. But this child doesn't know as an adult to know that I'm not supposed to touch the TV screen. Some children are good children. They are children who are like, they are blessed of God. They came to your house all composed and they will not touch that TV screen when you say do not touch. But there are others when you tell them do not touch, that is when they just want to touch it. So, for your own sanity, dear parents, you may want to keep that TV screen away from that child. That's why you enter some parents' homes and it looks like a football field or it looks like a hall where everything is hanging in the air and there's almost nothing on the floor because the child is crawling and they just want to save themselves that stress. And when this child starts developing some other senses and starts growing mature, you start bringing some of those things one after the other down and you discover this child will learn. You will see some parents who say, no, it's just because you're not disciplining this child enough. You don't know, you're not teaching this child the right way, because if you tell them and insist, don't touch my TV, they will know they are not supposed to touch. When they touch, you beat them, you will touch you. No one way fits two. That is why when you want to discipline your children, you have to be careful. Don't take what works for child A to try it on child B. Some will go for both children, but others will not work. I happen to have had 2 children. One came and the other, when this one came, you say, don't touch, this one will understand. This means don't touch. So if you're a visitor, you come to the house, this child will touch you, auntie, don't touch. So the child knows the name of that thing is don't touch, and that child will not touch. Then another child came. And when you say don't touch, that child must touch. It's like the child doesn't even understand what you're saying. So will I now leave that thing there and say, no, this child, and they were all of same age, I just understood that these 2 children don't understand it the same way. In as much as I'm inflicting pain on this other one or trying to, in quotes, discipline this other one, he's not understanding or she's not understanding what I'm saying. So I need to devise other means. So we must be smart enough to know what to use for a child when the child does something that is against the rules of the house, that you know would mean discipline for that child. Our aim for discipline is to correct behavior that is not welcomed in the home. and correct it in a way that the child would understand, and tomorrow it will instead be beneficial to that child. So if you as that parent, you are introducing this form of discipline that instead makes the child to hate you, hate everything, hate life, then we are not achieving our goal. Let's take, for example, I have this child who is already so used to the cane, and now the child has done something that is wrong, and I call the child, beats the child, or the child receives the cane and goes back and continues that thing. That form of discipline is no longer effective on that child. Or maybe that form of discipline is making the child recalcitrant. I may want to think of some other device, some other means, what to do on that child that is going to work. Maybe you want to withdraw something that this child loves very much. I am one person who will not really accept you starving your child in the form of discipline. That's my opinion. You have a right to your own opinion, please. I don't think if a child does something wrong, you should starve the child because the child has done something wrong. No. For me, find another way to discipline that child. Don't keep the child away from eating. What is food? The child will go pass it out in the very next few minutes to come. One of the ways to discipline that is not very appropriate is using words that are degrading on the children. Imagine your child growing up, and most of the times when you want to discipline, the things they hear from you: bad luck child, big head, imbecile, who brought you to my house, foolish child, dull child, why can you not be like A? Why those kind of words? When you do that to your child, you're killing that child slowly. And some of these children will withdraw. They'll go into their shell, and you will never know the wonderful potential God put into those children. Those who would not go into their shell, some of them will become very recalcitrant. They will say, oh, I'm already labeled a bad child, so let us do the bad now in this home. And the child will do bad even if the child feels bad for what he or she is doing, but it's just because that is the way they see the person. Our children are very smart. They want to know whether you keep your word as a parent, whether what you say stands. For example, a parent will say, a parent will put something somewhere and say, do not touch. You see a little child will go and touch and look at you. Touch and look at you. Actually, that child is testing to see whether you can keep your word as a parent. And if the child touches and look at you and you don't set in the rules straight there and then, that child would know that my mother, my father would not keep their word, so I can make do with what I want. And then tomorrow you'll find a child where you talk and the child doesn't follow you because your own disciplinary style wasn't effective according to that child. Try not to postpone what you can do now, especially when it comes to discipline, because you may just be pushing forward something that will grow bigger tomorrow and it will be difficult for you to handle. As little as it is, handle it there and then. If the situation is more than you to handle, you may ask someone, you may find out from a parent that you admire, whose children are growing up in the right way, and someone who will be truthful to you and find out how they do it to help discipline their children the right way. You find some parents who don't know when to set the rules straight with the child. A child is growing up, and this child, a visitor will come to the house and the child will go and beat the visitor and run away, or the child will go and pinch, or the child will do something to inflict pain on someone, and you say, oh, it's just a child, don't bother. Or you tell, stop that, don't do that to auntie, it's not correct, it's wrong. When you do that, that child will grow older and know that my mother, my father will defend me no matter what I do. And tomorrow they'll call you up in school that this child was fighting, or this child got some children beaten up, or this child did something strange, and you think the child was defending his or herself. But no, it's because from the tender age, you just let it go, let it slip by. Some children grow up and they don't even know the basic notion of, I like how the Frenchman calls it, savoir vivre. They don't know some small basics of life, the ABCs of living life right, because the parents just let them live their lives loose. It is our responsibility to bring up these children right, to bring them up in the way that is right in the society. If you don't know the way that is right, you don't know politeness, you don't know how to train them right. Maybe you want to refer to the Bible because God gave us these children. The Bible teaches us discipline. As parents, we have the responsibility to always go back to the manual and check the manual and find out what instructions are there in the manual for us to operate upon this thing, upon this project the Lord has given us, which are our children. I pray that God grants us the grace to raise our children right and to help discipline them. A parent who is disciplined would also help raise children who are disciplined. Even if the children go astray, they will come back. So if you want your child to dress decently, maybe you want to also be a mother or a father who dresses decently. If you want your child not to be someone who smokes, maybe you want to start thinking twice about smoking and stopping it. If you want your child to be one who is not a drunk, maybe you want to start working on that also as a parent. If you want your child to behave in a certain way, you want to start working in that light also, so that a child will learn from you and know that this is a good thing I should copy from my parents. I know it is doable. It may be hard, but it is possible. Thank you so much for watching Chance's Haven, and remember to always leave it better than you met it. See you some other time and have a wonderful time with your children and those you're raising. Bye-bye.